Today we'll talk about Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. So the book starts with a woman named Adrian who wants to talk to her husband, Lucas, about Noah, their son, coming back home. So, it's 18 months ago, Lucas was like, Noah isn't coming back here, and he's still saying that. But then, back then, Adrian was like, oh, he's gonna come around when the time comes. But now Noah's gonna come back within a couple of days, but Lucas is still like, oh, Noah isn't coming back here. And then the mother, so Adrian, is like, well, if Noah isn't coming back here, where is he gonna go? Because he's like 17 years old, he can't be living on his own. And then with his track record, he's not even gonna get a job. But then Lucas is like, well, there's something we can do. So Lucas talks about, I think he's talked about his friend, or maybe somewhere in an article he read that there was a girl who was suffering from schizophrenia. So um because she was being violent towards other people as well, so it was gonna be, she was harmful for others as well, so herself. So what her family did was they got a new home, they got a new place, and then the mother of that girl moved in with her so that the other siblings would be safe. So Lucas was like, oh, why don't we just do that, because they have another daughter named Katie. And then Lucas was like, oh, I'm afraid that Noah might hurt Katie as well. And then at the thought of that, Eugene was like disgusted, because she's like, no, I would never do that. But this is the agreement they reached, that Adrian is gonna get a new place, and then Noah is gonna move in with her, and then Katie, I mean their daughter, their younger daughter, I think she is 10 years old or 8 years old at this point. She's gonna be living with the father in their original home. So what did Noah really do? Well, Noah is a registered sex offender now. Noah is a 17-year-old boy, or he's now 17-year-old. But whenever you, even the book says that, the Adrian's perspective, she says that, whenever you hear someone being a sex offender, you think about some old aged man, but you never really think about a guy who's literally a prodigy and so young would be a sex offender. But Noah is. And then Noah is also, I mean, Noah is technically a really blessed child in terms of his academics, and he's really fond of swimming. He does competitive swimming, and I think and then he started coaching the swim teams as well. But yeah, he was loved by everyone, but obviously, like after the news broke, everybody just subsided. And then also Lucas doesn't want Noah to stay because he's just disgusted by whatever it is that he did, but also he's scared for Katie, the younger daughter, because the the girls that Noah assaulted were like 6 to 8 years old, which is the same age around Katie. So he doesn't really want Noah to be around Katie. But what he doesn't, so there's a part in the book where Adrian is like, we know we need to come up with a safety plan for Noah. And then Lucas is like, well, if he needs a safety plan still after all the time he has spent in the foundation, like I don't want to risk it, like with my daughter. But then Lucas doesn't understand that the safety plan is also about keeping Noah safe from kind of situations where he can be implicated. But regardless of that, she's gonna move into a new apartment. So Adrian, she finds a new apartment. She finds a two-bedroom apartment, and then she realizes like how small apartments are. The college kind of apartments you have. But yeah, she's gonna move in there. However, so that we also like kind of get like how did they reach to this point? So they used to live in another place called Buffalo Grove, where they had their house, but they had to move from there because I guess like the guy, so Lucas, I don't know, like he works in an office. I'm not really sure what. I think he deals with houses, or whatever that job is. But I think he's like a real estate agent. I'm not sure about that, but nobody would hire him, and then he couldn't work in the office anymore. But Adrian used to be a nurse, but then after she birthed her kids, she always decided she will be a stay-at-home mom. But then with Noah's bills or whatnot, because he went to the marsh, the foundation, so they couldn't keep up with the bill, so she had to go back to work. But I think she started doing work from home, because they still have Katie, so she still wants to be there for Katie. Now we sort of like figure, like the book tells us like what exactly happened. So because Noah was like such a blessed guy, and he used to like do well in everything, And then also he had a really good relationship with his parents, but then he started like being weird with his parents. Like he didn't used to talk much, or he used to be locked up in his room. So the parents were thinking like, oh, like I guess like teenage years are finally coming around. We thought we wouldn't have to deal with it, but I guess like we have to. But but then he wasn't really talking much, so Adrian was kind of worried because she was like convinced that Noah is probably doing drugs or weed or something. He's really into some shady stuff like that. She went her through his room, but she found nothing. So she was, well, I don't understand what's going on with the guy. But then one day, I think they were watching something, and Noah was like, like, I want to talk to you about something. And he broke down and started crying, and then he said something like about those he said something in the loans like, those girls, those girls, those girls. Um so Adrian thought that, oh, like all his problems were about girls, like he is interested in someone, or he probably has it her first heartbreak. But she was kind of heartbroken as well, because she was like, I thought I have a good relationship with Noah, so he would have told me that, if he has if he has girl problems or whatnot. But but then Noah is like, you don't understand. They were like 6 years old, and then all hell breaks loose. So he tells them about how he started coaching the swim team, and then there was these two girls named Macy and Bella, and said that he was like trying to control his urges or whatnot. He was controlling his urges, but then this one time he was in the water, and then he felt um one of the girls, like Macy and Bella, they felt something in his pants, and they were like, oh, what is this? And they touched him, and then he touched them in parts of body. But and that's what he told his mother. And then I think it happened multiple times, but then he felt really bad about that, so he he quitted the team. And that's how all those mood swings or whatnot, like the way he was acting, was all because of this. So Adrian calls Lucas, she tells Lucas, and Lucas is obviously mad, and then they decide that they have to tell the parents about that. They call the parents of Macy and Bella over. um but they call them over, and they're just like rummaging around the topic, and they're not getting to the point. And then they finally tell them. One of the parents, they just leave, and they're just like, don't talk to us or whatnot. But then the other parents, they're like, so it was just like touching, and there was nothing else. And then Adrian is like, oh yeah, it was just like, how we play doctor doctor or whatnot, it's just like that. So they're like, okay. They don't even take off their clothes, their coats, I guess, because it's like taking something from that family, like Adrian and Lucas's family, is like, it's something. It's like as if they have a disease, and that's gonna get to them. So everybody, they just start ignoring them. But the next day, like police comes to their house, and that's how the trial begins. So they were just focused on Noah not and Nigam in prison. However, so yeah, he didn't really end up in prison, but Noah wanted to go to prison because he knew that he did something like, that's heinous. So he wanted to get punished. I believe that's the very reason he told his mother as well about all that happened. But yeah, they saved him from prison because it would have been really, really bad in prison. And then Adrian was worried like what will happen to him in prison. So the judge kind of ruled out, and then judge like didn't rule out, but like the judge said that he's gonna go to Marsh, and then I think he went to Marsh for like 18 months, and that he's gonna get therapy over there. Now, the book isn't divided in chapters. So like all the chapters are like mother's POV, so it's Adrian's POV. But then there are a couple of chapters that are named him, then. So like it's about him, but it's like back when he was in the foundation. So when we read the chapters that are like labeled him, so they are like, it talks about the time he spent in Marsh in the foundation, right? So what happens is that he talks about how they were allowed roommates, but now they don't have any roommates. And then there's a guy called Ben who who tries to be one of the bad guys, but he's not really that bad, but he tries to fit in the bad people. And then most of the people over there, like the people he is accompanying over there, people talk about whatever they did, and they're really proud of it. But then he thinks that, oh, it's not him, like he would never do anything like that, and he's really embarrassed about whatever it is that he did. He talks about how there's a quiet room, and in quiet room, like the bad people go over there when you do really really bad things. It's like a punishment, so you and then you cannot hear anything. And then even in their rooms they're given, they don't have any windows or whatnot. So he's kind of scared of it as well, because there's a guy named Joe. So Joe is like the worst of the worst. Even the people over there, like the psychiatrist or not, they're also scared of Joe, because Joe is a bully. But then the kind of things he has done, like he burned down his grandma's home and like almost killed her. And then the woman, she has all these burns all over her body. His parents got him a dog, and then he broke the legs of the dog. His sister, he tried to slice his sister with a knife, and then that's how he got into juvenile detention. He's just, I don't know, the things he's done that are like just really really sick. And also like the way he behaves with other student people over there, it's really bad. Like you don't want to be in you what you do is you just avoid Joe. But honestly, you can't even avoid him, because if you avoid him, then it's like you're just signing your death warrant, honestly. So all the help that Noah is receiving, it's also a big part of his program that, his parents should be supportive as well. But well, Lucas isn't really, because he doesn't even attend the group therapies or whatnot. And then in the beginning he used to be there, but then he just used to sit quietly. And then later on he started coming up with excuses not to attend them. And then honestly, Adrian was kind of happy because and then Adrian was kind of happy because it was like, well, you rather not be there, because if you're just gonna sit over there, right, and then make Noah even more anxious. But Adrian was there, and then even the psychiatrist was like, was Noah abused, or does he not get along with his peers, or is something going on in his life generally? And maybe he doesn't get along with girls, or maybe it's something like that. But then that's the thing, there was nothing like that. He wasn't being abused at the house, and he had, like, everybody wanted to be his friends, and then he got along well with everyone. So there was no precise reason for him to do all that he did, because the psychiatrist was like, oh, like it's usually um like guys are just curious about girls, so that's why they do these things, because they might not be get along with girls, so they just tend to, like, go towards the younger ones who are more vulnerable. It was just something like that. But yeah, nothing like that was going on with Noah. So they couldn't really find a reason why would he do whatever it is that he did. That Noah is back, but he still like has to go back and forth into the marsh and sort of like report like all that is going on. I don't think he has to go back, but then still he's still in the program, right? Like he's back home, but they're still working on him. So his psychiatrist, like, Noah wanted to write letters to the two girls that he, you know assaulted. But then the psychiatrist was like, it's not a good thing for you to do that. But then the mother, Adrian, couldn't figure out why it's not a good thing. Like, he's sorry for whatever he did, so he should be writing letters. But then Adrian was like, well, for starters, you know um the judge said that he can't be contacting the girls that he assaulted. But also, it's not a good sign that he wants to contact them. But then Adrian couldn't understand why, but the psychiatrist was like, trust me, it's not a good thing. Like, I don't suggest you guys do that. Now we get another POV of him. So when he was in the foundation, so it's like, so he's taking a shower when there's another guy next in the next stall who's taking a shower. And then I think the new guy who over there. But yeah, but then Joe comes up, and Joe sort of like orders him to bend over, and Joe rapes him, like the new guy. Yeah, but then, I mean, he can't really, like, we think that it's Noah, so like Noah can't really do anything about it, because it's better not to say anything to Joe. Like, it's like whatever he does, like, you should just turn around and blind eye towards him, because otherwise it's gonna be you. So, and also the reason why Joe does these things is because the new guy. So whenever you come to the marsh, you have to accept all that you did. So you sit in a group, and then you tell everyone what is that you did. So that's like the first step, I believe. So he told like how I think he like did some bad things to his sister. So Joe said this kind of psyche Joe has is like, you can do anything you want, but like you'd never like sexually assault your own blood. So if you do that, you're like, you did like the most atrocious of crime. And that's how, that's the reason why Joe sort of raped that new guy. Like the one who molested her sister is named um Mark, and then Mark ends up like suiciding because of all that he was going through in the marsh. Anyways, now we get like the mother's perspective. So the mother, the relationship she has with Lucas is like is not that strong anymore. So it's there's a part where she tells him like love you, but then he doesn't reply back, and then she wonders like how long has it been since he has ever said that, I love you too. And in the marsh they get like this electrocompulsive therapy, I guess it is, so where they like put electrodes on their heads. But so he says that I don't think like my mom knows that this is what they do, but then Noah doesn't even want to say anything about that to his mom, although it's really painful. But Noah really wants to get better. He's like, I just want all these thoughts out of my head, so like whatever works. So now that Noah is back, his mother wants to check maybe like his best friend from high school. Oh, was he in high school? I don't know, like from his school. So his name is Kyle, but like I don't like she doesn't really think they're gonna get along, although she wants to test it, like test the waters if they're gonna get along. But I don't but she doesn't really think so, because Noah sort of got beat up. Oh, after everything like was announced, like everybody ended up knowing that what he did. So the kids in the school beat up Noah, and then Kyle was there, but like Kyle just watched. She didn't even try to stop. So I mean, she doesn't really have high hopes that Kyle and him are gonna get along, you know um even after this guy, oh my god, what's his name, Noah, he went to the marsh and now he's back, so he's had his treatment. But she just doesn't think they're gonna get along. But anyway, Katie is like the only bright part in Noah's life, right? But then the mother, she doesn't even she just she possibly she can't leave Katie alone with Noah, because well, she used to trust Noah, but like the first time around she had to leave Katie. Like I feel like as a mother's instinct, she can, but then also like in his when the court order, it was like he can't be left alone with any like younger kids or whatnot. But still, like Katie is like that bright spot in Noah's life right now. They're spending the night together, but in the morning, like when the mother has to drop off Katie, so what happens is that the Lucas is really angry, but then he goes like, I trusted you with Katie, but like I don't trust you anymore. And then the next time something happens, like I think he does something like with the court orders or something, because so it's insinuated that he's gonna file for divorce if something like that ever happens again. And then the Adrian is obviously like taken aback. Now the next thing that happens is that Noah is, I mean, obviously he has to start back school, right? But then what happens is he comes back home this one day, like the next day, and he goes to school, he comes back, but then he's all beat up, and then he tells his mother like, "Mom, it's happening again." What he means is that in the beginning when everything like went down, so he used to get beaten up, but like so everything is just happening again. So the mother calls 911, and then I think like they were gonna take like 10 to 20 minutes to come. So the mother, she's like, Aiden is like, oh, can you walk to the car? Noah is like, yeah, he can. So they go to the car, and then she takes him to hospital. She tells Lucas about whatever it is that happened, and then Lucas comes, and then he's like, sounds pretty rough. Like I heard, I got they told me what happened. But then Aiden is like, like why are you even here? Like but he's like, well, you called me, and then she's like, "What, you don't care about your son? Like whatever happens to him, like he might be dying out there. So you're not even gonna tell him like everything is gonna be fine, right? Because Lucas isn't even talking to his son. I don't think they talk. Yeah. So I mean, because Noah sort of like needs his father's support, but like Lucas isn't just giving that to him. So Aiden is just angry at him. She's like if you would have been there as his if you would have been there as his father, like things would have been so much better. But Lucas is just not stepping up. So I think that Noah's doctor's name is Dr. Phillips. Her first name is Lisa. So she suggests that they should put Noah in a psychiatric facility at least to help stabilize him. And then Aiden is like okay with that. But then Aiden still doesn't let Lucas see Noah, because she's like, you're a bad influence on him. Like he sees you, and then things just go south because you're not there as a support system for him. So, but then Lucas is like, you don't understand, because like I'm a man, and then the way you act is as if like he just did like a small thing. Like for heaven's sake, like he's a child molester. You don't understand that. But then you know Adrian is like, you don't understand that because you're not even there for your son. And then Lucas is like, well, I do understand because I'm a man. And then like men are not supposed to have fantasies about children. Well, they have this fight, and then Dr. Phillips is like, well, they should probably like look into homeschooling because um if they look into homeschooling, like he doesn't have to go to school and then go through all of this all over again. And then but then the only problem is that Noah cannot be near internet. So Dr. Phillips is like, oh, she can possibly talk to the judge, and then if she makes up a report, then he probably would be able to get homeschooled because she has seen cases where there are kids who are not allowed to use internet because of their charges or whatnot. But then like it's a possibility, like she can like go around it, she can talk to the judge for about it. And then he ends up getting home, and then Noah is really happy about that because he doesn't really have to go through all of this all over again. So back when he was in Marsh, his mother used to visit him, but then he just used to appear like a mama's boy. So he didn't want that because it wouldn't have looked good. So he was like, just don't hug me, or like don't do that because everybody's gonna think I'm a mama's boy. So the mother, she was obviously like kind of heartbroken, but she was like, it's okay, I'm not gonna cry, I'm gonna be strong for my son. Now we go back to Adrian's POV. So now what happens is that Dr. Phillips, she suggests that Noah should like get visit from someone from the facility so that he still has some peer. I think she suggests like he should be. I think she suggests like a peer from Marsh. I'm not sure if she suggests like a peer from Marsh, or does she suggest the peer from like a guy from the facility he is in right now. But either of that, she suggests that he should have like a visit from like a friend, like someone he knows, but they're not friends. Like Loa is like, oh, I'm not friends with this guy, so his name is Rick. So it's a guy from the facility who visits Noah because he lives by. And then, well, the doctor doesn't really tell a lot to Adrian about him because she can, because patient confidentiality. But she tells him that I can tell you that he's a guy who went through his puberty and then made some bad choices. But then when she meets Rick, he's like a totally different person than she would have imagined. Like he was the kind of guy she wouldn't have ever let Noah near because he's like described as like all this like this emo kid like who has black nails and then weird hairstyle and weird aesthetics. And he has a phone. So she's like, wait, how does this guy have a phone? Because I don't think they're allowed to be near internet. But regardless of that, he has a phone. And then he's like, and then Rick has this attitude where he's like, wow, like you don't have a phone, Noah, like that's the worst case scenario. And then he's just making Noah feel really bad about him. And then they go out and he orders like the most expensive things. So he's just shown like he doesn't, I mean, I don't think Adrian really approves of the guy, but then there's no one else over there that Noah could possibly even talk to. So I believe like Noah is sort of like okay. I mean, he still talk. I mean, at least he's talking. At least he has someone around who he can talk to. So I think that's the only thing that makes her feel like, well, okay, I can let Rick in his life. But that's the only like one time we ever see Rick. Like after his visit, like the next week, she's like, oh, everything will be fine, right? Like everything will come, like, go back on track. But then she like comes back home and she's like she just thinks like Noah would be watching TV or whatnot. But then Noah isn't there, so she's like she just calls out for Noah, and then she gets no response. And Noah wouldn't be going outside, so she goes to his room. And then I believe like there's puke all over, and she's just really worried. Like all of a sudden she's like, oh my god, what just happened over here? I think Noah was in the restroom and he was just like puking his brains out. And then she sees the prescription on the bed, I believe, or maybe in the restroom, and it was Percocet. And he just took many of them. And she's just like wondering, like, are you okay? Like, should we go to the doctors? And he's like, no, we can't go to the doctors because you know what he was trying to do, right? Like, because if they go to the doctor, and then he would go back to the facility. But like, anyways, she just like wants to be there for her son, so they don't really go to the doctors. And then she's worried because she wants to go to the doctors because what if there's still things in her stomach that needs to be pumped out. But he's like, well, I've been puking my brains out, so there is nothing left to be pumped out. And then at this point in time, she realizes that Noah does need his father. So Adrian talks to Lucas, and she's like, and then they finally agree to, so Lucas finally agrees to have them over their place for a movie night. So they have the movie night, and then Katie's just like attached by the bone with her brother. But the next thing, like they're watching the movie, and then Katie, it's okay, sorry, Adrian talks to the guy, right, the Lucas, and then she's like, like she's like, oh, we need to talk, because she tells him like Noah tried to end his life. So she's like, he really needs you there. And then Lucas is like, fine, I'll talk to him, and she's really happy about that, that okay, maybe they're gonna talk, and maybe things will be better than however they are right now. But and then so Lucas goes and Lucas calls Noah, and then I feel like it's like the first time he's ever called Noah. So Noah is like really like bright, and he's really excited, so he follows his father. But then they come back after a while, and then Noah is like, mother, like, mom, let's just go. And then she's really like confused. She's like, I don't know, like, what happened. But then they go back home, and then the next morning was just, oh my god, because she goes into Noir's room, and then he tried to kill himself. Like there were like bed sheets all like in the balcony, and he was like trying to hang himself, and he wasn't breathing. And then she called people over, and they had to bring out a helicopter, I believe, and then they took him to the hospital. He's sort of like in an induced coma, because they don't know like for how long like oxygen wasn't reaching. So he's like, they save him, but then they're not really sure like how much damage has been done. So I mean, after I think 3 days, he wakes up. So but he's not really talking yet, so they don't really know like how much damage has been done to his brain. And then it's like he's also like, they don't know if he's like there's damage to his brain, or maybe he's just depressed right now. And then they admit him to a psychiatric facility. So I think he was like, in the beginning he was under suicide watch, and then the doctors were like, maybe he left a note or something. But then Adrian was like so all over the place that she didn't know if there was a note. She was like, I didn't see no note. But then after he's like a little bit stable, she goes back to home to pick up a couple of things, and that there she sees the note. And then she sort of like bawls her eyes out, because she's like, he was really ready to leave, huh? And then in the note, he talks about like how in the Mars it taught them that they're not sex offenders. So okay, no, in the Mars it taught them like how they're not pedophiles, they're just sex offenders. They did these crimes because they were curious, or I don't know, something like that. But then he's like, I am a pedophile because I feel attracted towards the girls, towards the the younger girls. And then he's like, it's not your fault, and then tell dad I love him. And then he's like, you guys don't need to worry about me anymore, and then Katie will have a life, you and dad will get along, and then like, it's not your fault, and then just don't blame yourself. And he just thinks like that. But so Adrian, she keeps on like asking Lucas like, what is it that, like, what did you talk to him about, like, that made him take this decision. But then he doesn't really tell her. And then neither is Noah talking about it. So now Adrian talks to the doctor, right? She talks to Dr. Phillips, and she tells her about the note. And then she's like, that's the very reason why I was like, okay, so I don't. Okay, she talks to the doctor, and she's like, the doctor is like, that's the very reason why I was like, I told you like it's not a good reason for him to write notes to the girls, because like I feel, because she was like, because there are reasons why people are sex offenders. They probably want to talk to girls, and then they don't know how to, and then they just turn towards the younger ones because they're more vulnerable. But then nothing like that was going on with Noah, and he was responding really well to the treatment, because I mean, pedophiles are rare, but maybe he is a pedophile. Like, he actually feels attracted towards younger girls, and that's the reason why they didn't want him writing letters to those girls. But then, so after all of this, Adrian goes to you know, she used to be religious, but like around this time, she doesn't really feel religious, but she still goes to the priest, I believe. But then that's the funny thing. Like, she's like, towards when times are hard, like people turn towards the priest or whatnot. They turn towards religion. But the point in time, she was like, even the priest was like, you should like find a new church or something. Like, the priest wasn't even there for them. So I mean, that was like a moment where she was also let down. And then she goes to visit her son Noah. And but then he can't be like, during this time, like, he's under the watch, so he can't be alone with anyone. So the nurse is like, okay, you can, there was this one room where they can talk in privacy, but then the nurse has to be outside. So the mother is like, okay, I'll call you if something happens. And then she's talking to Noah, And then she's like, I found your note. And then Noah's like, so you understand that I'm a monster. So why? I just want to die. And then the mother is obviously like trying to be understandable of all that he's going through. But then um, they're just having this moment where Noah's like, you don't understand. And the mother is like, no, I do understand. But then obviously she doesn't want him to die, of course. She doesn't want to die, of course. But then Noah's like, you don't understand that I have to die because if I don't, then I'm gonna do it again. But then at that moment, she doesn't understand like what is he talking about? Is he gonna like try to kill himself again, or is he trying to hurt the girls again? Like what is it he talking? What is it that he's talking about? So now when they're talking, so she's like, so that is true that you are a pedophile. And then he starts telling her like, like if you're comfortable with it, like I can tell you when I figured all these things out. So when he figured all this out, he was in grade 7. So he's like, so he was in grade 7, but he didn't act out after two up to like the next 2 years. That's when he like touched Macy and Bella. So he tells like, Kyle, like his best friend, like there was a time when all of them got into girls and they used to like watch things and then like all the things that come with puberty. But then he was like, I never really felt anything towards like those girls and I didn't really understand like what's there, right? Like, okay, like you guys are into girls or whatnot. But then he didn't really feel that way. But then he used to like there was a girl in his school bus who was really young, and then in the beginning he was like, oh, it's just like Katie, I'm gonna talk to her because she's like always alone or whatnot. But then slowly but surely he started like feeling sexually towards her, but he didn't really do anything to her. But after he got into swim team like 2 years, like after the next 2 years, that's when he used to like get hard when he was like in the water, but he didn't want to get out because it would have been weird, right, if everybody would see, if everyone would see it. But then that time, Macy and Bella, so one of them like they felt it, and then they were like, oh, what's that? They were curious because they didn't know what is it, right? And then that's when things happen, like they touched him and then he touched them, but then they're literally so young, so they don't even know what's happening. So I mean, obviously by this time, like Adrian is really disgusted, but then she doesn't really want Noah to stop talking because he's finally talking, right? So I mean, at least he trusts his mother, right? And he's able to talk to her. And then she goes on to ask him like, what is it that your father said to you that you ended up doing whatever it is that you did, like you ended up killing yourself, you decided to kill yourself. And then he's like, well, I can tell you, but promise me you won't tell father about it. And then she wonders like, there was a time when I didn't really used to keep any secrets from Lucas, but times have changed now. So she's like, okay, like if my son trusts me, so I wouldn't tell Lucas about it. So Noah tells her that Lucas was like Lucas said that I'm gonna, like, you should just run away. I'm gonna give you like a couple amount of money. I'm gonna send you money like every month until you're 21, and then that's when you're gonna be on your own. So you should just leave our family so we can be like together. And then just your presence is just because the fact that he's in the family, so that thing is gonna go back on track. So he just basically just told like you should just run away. And then Adrian was disgusted by that thought. She was like, how can Lucas say that to his own son, flesh and blood? So at this point in time, because Adrian knows that, Noah's trying to kill himself again, so she tells Dr. Phillips that, like, you don't release him from the hospital because he told me that he's going to kill himself again. He's trying to kill himself again. And then doctor is like, oh, like, I understand you're a mother, and then obviously you'll have these feelings and you'll be really like protective about your son, but then trust me, like, we know what we're doing. And then she's like, no, you don't understand, because he confessed that he's going to try to do it again. And then doctor is like, have you considered, like, getting help for yourself as well? So yeah, the doctor is like turning things on her at this point. Next time when Noah and Adrian are talking, so he's like still thinking about killing himself, offing himself. He sort of like relates it with people who are terminally ill. And then the mother is like, that's different. And he's like, is it? Because people who are terminally ill are suffering from a disease that which has no cure, and then it's the same with me, so I should just off myself. And then the mother is like, have you ever thought about Katie? Like, she would be devastated if she knew, like, you like, what are you planning on doing, or if you weren't around. And then he says that she's way too young to understand. So once she's old enough, she wouldn't feel the way she feels for me at this point in time. But then the mother is like, like, don't compare yourself with people who have cancer. And then he's like, yeah, that's right, because people who have cancer are still loved by other people. Now we get another POV of like, him back when he was in the marsh, and he's like, there's like, how they do the electroshock therapy, and he's like, I can cry right now because in that therapy they showed him like a couple of pictures of younger girls, so that he doesn't really get excited when he sees them. And then he was like, I didn't get excited, so like I could cry because I didn't get excited, because he's like, oh, it's finally working, finally getting better. And also I feel like he found, and then I think in some point he says that he found a way where whenever he feels like attracted, or whenever he feels excited, whenever he sees a young girl, he tries to like pinch himself so that he would feel the pain and not get excited. It's just that there's a part where he talks about like, when he's awake he can still control his feelings or whatnot, but he can't when he's sleeping. And then the doctor can't possibly know that, like how, what state does he wake up in. They let him go back to his home, although like Adrian is still like, he's still gonna try to do something. But this conversation they have, like, things really change at this point, because they were talking, and then Lucas sorry Ad- Noah is like, people who get chemically castrated, like they still have the urges, so like there's nothing they can possibly do. And then she searched online, and then he was right about that, because people who get chemically castrated, like somewhere there, they still have these urges, like to sort of molest all these younger people, all the younger girls. I mean, because he is into girls, so yeah. But then what happens next is that they're talking, and then this one point, Noah tells her that, you don't even know what happened to me when all those guys beat me up at the beginning, right? Like back when he got beat up, and then the agent took him to the hospital. And then she's like, what do you mean? And then he's like, well, promise me you won't tell anyone, and then especially the doctors. But then he tells her that, they raped me with like, they inserted like a stick. And then she's just disgusted by that thought, because she's like, how could they possibly do something like that? And then she's just like, she also like feels like the hypocrisy that's there in the society. But then at that point in time she decides that, she's, because Noah wants to like off himself, and he's like, I mean, I don't have to do it alone, you can be there for me. Like, I mean, you can be there, and then while I do it, you can be like there holding my hand or whatnot. And at that point in time she decides that, she is gonna be there for her son, but she wants it to be like really easy on him, and she doesn't really want him to be like throwing up all over the place, or having to go to the doctor afterwards. I mean, if it doesn't really work, so she tries to find like a perfect combination of medicines that would work, and then where he can just peacefully sleep, and then just pass away. There's like a medicine that's like of a higher potency, I believe. But then that could all there's okay there's just an one medicine that she could get, but then I feel like that's illegal for people to just like easily be able to get. And then I feel like only the pharmacist can get it, but then if she were to go to a pharmacy and then just ask for it, it would raise red flags, so she can't really use that. However, there's another medicine that can be prescribed by the doctor, so she talks to the doctor about it, and she's like, oh, like everything that's happening with Noah, I'm not able to, it's really hard for me to sleep, so I need like a stronger medicine. And she says like, possibly this medicine. Doctor is like, are you sure? Because Noah is like having suicidal thoughts, are you sure you want to do that? And she's like, trust me, like I lock everything up because I know, like, his state of mind. And the doctor is like, sure. And then she gets the medicine, and and then because Noah knows that it's like, he's, because his mother is like finally coming around, so he's really happy, and then to the point where he's actually living his life. And then the mother is like, how can this guy be like so happy now, like he's like finally trying to enjoy his life? And then like, is he sure like he still wants to do that? But then it just suddenly, she realizes like the only reason why he is the way he is right now is because he knows that it's gonna all end soon. And they decide that they're gonna like do the thing on Monday, and then this, I think the day is Saturday, I believe, I'm not sure. But then they just randomly decide that, let's just do it on Monday, because Noah was like, oh, when are we gonna do it? And then the mother was kind of like, she was like, okay, like what is, like, why are you so into it? Like, give me some time, right? Like, because she obviously doesn't want her son to, like go away. But then they spend the week just together, and then on the weekend they're going to the Navy Pier. They have this picnic day, and then so Katie's like attached, like she's like, she's really like clingy usually with her brother, but this time around she's like extra clingy, as if she knows like something is gonna happen, right? But then, so Lucas and Adrian, right, like they used to like see their kids play around, and they used to like hold their hands and see, the love they both have for each other. But now when she reaches out for her hand to, like intertwine with her husband's hand, but then it's like all weird, and then the guy like takes away her hand, and she has that look in her eyes where she's like, no, this is your last chance. You don't know what you're missing out. Like, he's not going to be here afterwards. But she can't tell him because there's a possibility that they would be, you know going through Noah's death, like how it happened or whatnot. So she can't be telling anything to Lucas about it, that, like she had a hand in all of this. But and then I think he writes a letter for her, the father, and then also Katie. He writes a letter, but like the mother, we as readers don't know like what was in the letters. But the day finally rolls around, and then she finally like makes a concussion, like she grinds the medicine, and then Noah also like creates a playlist, and then the mother is like, you're gonna create a playlist while you like pass. But anyways, he still makes a playlist, and then he takes those shots or whatever, because she grinds the medicine, and then she mixes it in water so that he wouldn't puke it all out. And then there's also this anti-nauseous medicines that she makes him take. And then she puts his head on her lap, and then she's there for him. She holds him, and then she turns on the music, and she realizes that the music wasn't for him, it was for her, because he knew that how hard would it be. And he's like so drugged up, and then his breathing is like slow and slow. So his mind, like he wants to leave, but his body doesn't want to leave. So his breathing stops, but then he he breathes again, and then his breathing is like going low, but then his body's still fighting. So his mother keeps on like whispering, like, it's okay, you can go, it's okay, you can go. And then she's also like, she wants to cry at the song he picked up, because those were like the songs they all used to jam on. But yeah. And then he just passes away, and then she decides that she's not gonna cry, because she wanted to have like a brave face on for her son. And then yeah, he just passes away. Now, now we get another POV. That other Okay, so the other POV, like the him POV. Now you know how every other POV was labeled as him, then him, then him, then. Now this POV is labeled as him now. And then the POV, this first line is like, I'm not that mad that Noah passed away, or like Noah is gone. And at this point, we realize that all those POVs were of Lucas and not Noah. So like Lucas was the one who was in the marsh. So turns out that Lucas was a pedophile, or is a pedophile, was a pedophile, I'm not sure. But so all those POVs, like all those parts where like there was a guy who was getting raped, and then there was this guy who was like the Mark guy who passed away and all. So like it was Lucas who was experiencing all that. Not Noah. I mean, definitely Noah probably did, but then Lucas also went through all of this, and then his wife, his son, and nobody knows that, because back when he did all that he did, like there wasn't much internet available, so like nobody really knew what's going on. And then also because his parents didn't want to like tell the girls that, okay, his parents didn't want to like, because with Noah, the parents decided to tell the parents of the girls like what happened, so like they would pay for their therapy or whatnot. But then his parents decided otherwise. So what he did was, he decided like his attraction towards young girls, and then he had a neighbor. His uncle used to live next to them. And this one day they were playing hide and seek, and then like he had a daughter. He started, and then Lucas started rubbing himself on her. And then that's when his father came up, and he just took Lucas off the girl. And then he probably got a beating. And then his father didn't really want to talk to him afterwards. But then, like after ages and ages, everything got back to normal, what you would consider normal. But then obviously they passed away. And then he met Katie at some camp, because because he started participating, and he started volunteering, because he knew like all that he did was really really wrong. But then his family never got along with the family of that girl, like he was molesting. And also he did that multiple times. Noah just did that once, and then Lucas was doing that over and over and over and over and over again. And then when everything happened with Noah, so Lucas felt like everything is coming back, because he could like see himself in Noah, because he did all that as well. So it's to the point where Adrian, like, they have the ashes of Noah. So she tries to like put it in front of the house, like, like where everybody can see, but then he just keeps on putting it back in like a dresser or something because he doesn't really want to see that, because it just reminds him of all that he did. And then he never really tells anyone, like, but I feel like if he would have told Noah about it, Noah would have possibly felt like, there's someone who understands him. But yeah, they don't really like go much into like how did, like, because Lucas has like a wife now. I don't know anything about Lucas because they don't really talk about Lucas. But yeah, the story was about, how when we think about a sex offender, everybody was just like running away from him. But then how do parents react to people? And then, it's just like a story where you get a POV where of like how does life look like when it's your own son who does something like that. But then his mother was really forgiving, and then also the fact that he was really ashamed of all that he did, and then he just wanted to pass away. And then Katie also like started wetting her bed, but she like the mother Adrian, she took her to a psychologist to to help her with all that she was going through. And then she read Noah's letter as well, so that gave her some solace. But yeah, their marriage was probably like done for, because but now they're living together. But they're just living together for Katie. They're not really living. They don't even like share the same bedroom. And that was it. Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. I mean, I would say that it took me quite some time to go through the book, although it's not like a really long book. It's a quick read, but towards the end, yeah, that's when it picked up the pace, right? But it's kind of sad when you really think about like him deciding that he just wants to kill himself because he's so ashamed of whatever he does that he's done, and then he wouldn't be able to stop himself. It's kind of sad, especially like Katie. But yeah.